Tariffs on. Where has my retirement gone? Congratulations, America. We've done it again. Just when you thought your retirement savings might actually make it to the finish line without collapsing into a flaming pile of inflation-adjusted regrets, here comes the 1-2 punch of economic brilliance: tariffs. The political equivalent of smashing your own kneecaps with a sledgehammer because your neighbor gave you a dirty look. Yes, tariffs. That old chestnut. Nothing screams strategic economic foresight quite like deliberately raising the cost of imported goods and pretending it won't eventually ricochet straight into your 401k. Because apparently, penalizing your own consumers while calling it patriotism is just how we do business now. The boomerang effect nobody ordered. Let's start with the basics. Tariffs are taxes. Not on other countries. Not on foreign companies. But on you. The consumer. The retiree. The investor. The middle-class dreamer clinging to the last vestiges of compound interest. When a tariff goes into effect, it's not Xi Jinping writing Uncle Sam a check, it's Target quietly raising prices on everything from garden hoses to washing machines. And that extra $40 on your new dishwasher? That's not going into your Roth IRA, friend. That's getting sucked out of your pocket to prop up an economic Cold War fantasy where America makes everything again, with a labor force that hasn't seen an industrial sewing machine since Reagan was in office. So next time you hear the phrase "we're bringing jobs back," what they really mean is we're bringing prices up, and your retirement account is the sacrificial lamb on that altar. Manufacturing glory, the multi-billion-dollar mirage. Look, we all love the idea of American steel. Apple pies. Baseball. Factories roaring to life in the Midwest. But in practice, reviving legacy manufacturing through tariffs is like trying to get your ex back by throwing rocks through their window. It's loud, destructive, it only works if your plan is to get arrested. Sure, a few domestic producers might temporarily benefit. Maybe a factory in Ohio gets a short-term boost, hires a few dozen workers, and cuts a ribbon while a congressman smiles for the cameras. But the broader economy? It's like shooting a hole in your own gas tank despite the gas station. Meanwhile, downstream industries, the ones that use those now more expensive raw materials, start shedding jobs or cutting wages. And those are the jobs your adult children and grandchildren depend on. You remember them, right? The ones moving back in with you because rent is $2,300 a month for a studio with a leaky sink and a communal vibe. Tariffs and inflation, a love story. Let's talk inflation. Remember that annoying little thing that's been eating away at your savings like termites in a log cabin? Tariffs are like a flamethrower strapped to a gas can in that scenario. Every time we slap a new duty on Chinese electronics or European cars, we're turbocharging the cost of living. So now your retirement income, already limping along behind inflation like a three-legged dog in a greyhound race, is asked to stretch even further. Groceries cost more. Prescriptions cost more. Travel costs more. The grandkids' Christmas presents cost more. All thanks to tariffs that were supposed to level the playing field but ended up turning the whole economy into a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. The dividend decapitation. But it gets worse, especially if you're one of those smart retirees who built a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks to keep the golden years golden. Because tariffs don't just attack your wallet at the checkout line. They sneak into your investment portfolio like a termite with a taste for dividend income. When tariffs drive up production costs and choke off global supply chains, companies don't just eat those costs. They slash expenses, delay investments, cancel expansion plans, and yes, they cut dividends. So that steady stream of quarterly cash you were counting on to pad your Social Security check? It starts to dry up. And now you're staring down a future where the phrase fixed income has never felt more fixed, as in, immobile, inflexible, and not nearly enough. The Great Trade War Retirement Heist. If we were being honest, and let's be honest, no one in Washington is, this whole tariff extravaganza would come with a giant asterisk, maybe hazardous to your long-term financial health. Because while politicians love to bluster about winning trade wars, the only real losers seem to be ordinary Americans trying to retire with dignity. And the markets? Oh, they hate uncertainty. Every time a tariff gets floated, announced, delayed, reannounced, or randomly revoked via tweet, the stock market reacts like it just stepped on a rake. Volatility spikes. Tech stocks wobble. Industrials nosedive. And your retirement account? It gets dragged through the mud like a protester at a tariff rally. The Global Retaliation Express. But wait, there's more. Because tariffs don't just sit politely and behave. No, they invite retaliation. Other countries slap their own tariffs on American goods, especially the kind produced in swing states, because geopolitics has a sense of humor that way. So now, your retirement portfolio isn't just bleeding from the consumer side, it's getting whacked from the export side, too. That company you invested in because it makes 20% of its revenue in China? Good luck! They're now persona non grata in Beijing, and your quarterly report looks like a horror show written in red ink. How did we get here? It all comes down to economic cosplay. A bunch of people playing 1950s industrial policy dress up while the rest of us live in a world where global supply chains, digital services, and margin-sensitive industries are the new normal. They think they're building a moat around the economy. What they're actually building is a walled garden with no fruit and a really aggressive HOA. Retirement in 2025 was already a balancing act. You've got inflation, housing bubbles, rising medical costs, and now tariffs, as if the retirement fairy decided to sprinkle your golden years with a little extra chaos just for fun. What now? Well, you could move to a cheaper country, but wait, tariffs might raise the cost of plane tickets. Switch to a cash-only lifestyle, which is great until cash loses 20% of its purchasing power in 5 years. Work until you die, the new American dream. Or, vote like your retirement depends on it. Because it does. If you're sick of seeing your retirement hijacked by economic nationalism dressed up as fiscal responsibility, maybe it's time to start demanding trade policies made by economists, not performance artists with cable news contracts. Because tariffs aren't just a trade strategy anymore, they're a retirement tax. And you, my friend, are footing the bill.